That's what she says.
Yeah, just make it fun and say, "Hey, everybody, we're live," and you guys don't even know it yet because I just thought I'd hit the live button.
We've never done that
talking.
before. We've never done that before. We're live right now, aren't we?
We are live right now. We are live.
You did it.
I did it. I thought it'd be fun. Hey, we talk in the background a lot before we come on the show because we're always just like, what did we just see? And I think this episode is a lot of I don't know. There's so much to talk about today. I mean, where do we even begin? I'm lost and confused. And
last week we weren't. I was saying last week we couldn't do an episode because CBS with their weird. You can watch it like at midnight. And you can watch it on Paramount Plus live, but there's this gap period where you can't watch it. And so I was traveling last week. I guess that's what Twitter's for. Yeah. So that's why we missed last week. We weren't able to watch it in time for the podcast, but watch it this time. So we could maybe recap the first step, the episode that we missed, or we could just jump into this one because this one was a lot crazier than the previous one.
We'll see what happens when we miss an episode of Spill the Immunity. All crazy happens.
Yes.
Right. It's our fault. And you should vote us out because we're the problem.
I watched it. I was ready. I'm going to point that out. I was here. I'm going to play the Venus role right now and be like, I was here. I was ready. We had a lot of Venus in our world like the last 24 hours because Alex and I have this like meeting thing that we do. And there were two ladies named Venus in it this morning. I know we had Venus doing all her Venus-y things. Man, she's a gnat. I am sorry. And I just, she's just, I'm like, gosh, just, it's the smugness and the little whatever. I'm so over it.
But is she Banu bad? Is she Zelensky and Yanu and whoever the female was? I forget her name already. That's how important she was in the season. And now Q is she who's
some big personalities on this season.
What was the water? What were they drinking over at Banu where every player seems to be infected with this crazy?
I like there is so much that happened in this episode last night. I'm like, where do we even start with? Because I was talking to Brandon beforehand and we were like, I told him, I felt like I was watching different episodes, like portions of different episodes, because it was really just like when we got to Tribal, I felt like we missed a whole, there not something that happened to like precipitate. I can't even talk, to bring that about with Q. We had this insane hide and seek game, which it should now be a requirement. It was so freaking, I don't know about you guys. Okay. Let me start with hide and seek. I was sitting there watching them play hide and seek. I was getting Q's commentary. And then I started putting old players in a game of hide and seek. Like Tony crushing it. Like that's his whole thing. Can you imagine?
Invented it.
Ozzy would still be hiding on the island.
Ozzy would be underwater.
Yeah.
With like a reed.
Holding his breath.
Holding his breath. Yeah, with a reed. You're like, where's Ozzy? And he used to emerge out of the water with a little reed. Yeah.
All the food at camp would be gone because Sandra would have eaten it or like hit it, because everyone was off doing their, it was just like, I just could see like so many things. Okay. What did you guys think of the way Q analyzed people and used the game to have it to give a tell on the person?
Q was the best player and the worst player in the same exact episode.
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh.
The duality of man. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How he pieced it together, and I thought he was spot on how he was kind of perceiving each gameplay. Like he pointed out Liz is actually playing this game. Look how she hid. Tiffany is wearing the red buff and shows that she's not good at detail. Even if those things weren't true, at least you can convince somebody of those truths to make them think, oh yeah, like that makes sense. So like the Q skirts. This is where I stand up and show off my Q skirt.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
You're welcome.
Did you get the 3-for-1 deal, or how did you get that?
I didn't get deals because I didn't give him a deal on the immunity challenge. Like Jeff lost his.
You're not going to be very nice to him today, so he's definitely not giving you a deal.
No, he's going to charge me double for all the things I have to say about his game right now. I thought he was spotted, so he could have easily used that. So that's why I don't understand at all, even if he had strategy. See, let me talk about the strategy real quick. I know we're all over the place, but so is this episode. My son Jackson is notorious. He's the king of doing something and then trying to, and he didn't know why he did it. He was so intentional, but then he words it to us later on, and he says, "Oh, I did that because of this, this, and this," like just to make it seem like that was a great thing he did. I think Q is very guilty of this, and I even think it showed a little bit of that even when he was with Zelensky on the water challenge at the first thing they did, because in an interview Zelensky had said, "Hey, Q gave up just as much as I did. You just saw all the good stuff of Q." And for the first time ever, I think I'm starting to believe something Zelensky said about Q. Somebody talk.
First of all, Zelensky is I love that he just lives on. He is loving that he lives on. Like even Jeff said, he will forever now be part of the lore of he's now canon when it comes to Survivor. And I loved it. Like several, you've been here. Several come back next year for season
Survivor 40
several.
several. Yeah, that was good.
So I mean, I love that they brought that in, and they're like he's the gift that just keeps on giving, and I want to see stuff like that happen. That makes the little Survivor super fan inside me just cheer to see them bring things back, and so when you can continue that joke. It just keeps going. It's just to me that's the best.
Yeah.
Well, should we
talk about? Yeah, to talk about Q for a little bit. He's like an archetypal driver. He really loves to drive things, drive the conversation, and he's just very in control in that way. And he's like the ultimate salesman. He could sell, ice to an Eskimo, right? He could sell anything, and he's able to justify all of his behaviors through his logic, right? And so Brandon said that earlier, is like he'll do something, not know why he does it, but he's not a rational being. He's somebody who rationalizes. Now we're all like that. We're not we don't make rational decisions. We look at our decisions, and after the fact, we say, "Oh, this is why I did it," and maybe not why you did it. But Q is just kind of the epitome of that. And then he's super he's super competitive and very prideful in the standard that he holds himself to. And so if he feels like that he didn't live up to this imaginary standard, well then, throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm bad. I'm a failure. He talked about that with the football catch, right? He said, back in the day when I was a high school football player, championship game, and front page of the paper, Q drops the ball. But he was probably an amazing player. You know what I mean? And he just has that thing in him that just, I don't know. It is kind of like he holds himself in high regard, but it's very fragile, right? And it falls apart very quickly.
Because of that statement that you just made. I think that really damaged him when that, like I agree with you, makes amazing play after amazing play after amazing play, makes one mistake, it costs the game. That happens. It's called sports and happens all the time, but you're remembered for that. That reminds me of, I love Keanu Reeves. I love watching his movie, and that movie he did with Nick Nolte, where he has to be the surfer. Now I can't think of the name of it, and he's an undercover police officer. Yeah. But he comes in, and his character Johnny was like the guy in college ball that dropped the ball, and then everybody like that was it. You lost it. You're the most horrible person. Reminds me of that story. So I can see how that really damaged him. And like I would say, you need to go talk to someone about that, because that's gonna like hold you back in the future. Like it's something you need to like work through, because it was exaggerated, because that's what people saw. Like that's what they do in sports, is like that one thing. You did that one thing wrong. You've been perfect 99% of the time. And now he holds himself to that constantly.
But he really isn't the type of person to stay down too. I mean, he I think goes down, he gets really hard on himself, but then he recovers and he's back and he's just as competitive. I don't think it's his nature to stay down and be defeatist. But yeah, he does have those moments.
He was ready to throw in the towel last night for.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He has those moments, but I'm sure he's going to go back to camp and then they're going to talk to him and be like, dude, what the hell are you doing? You know what I mean? But go ahead, Brandon. Sorry.
But to keep, that was the first time he publicly in front of everybody showed that second side that he's always had, which again, I think the question we need to answer at the end of this episode is, does he have a chance anymore after doing something as crazy as that? And I don't know what that answer is. We've been surprised with people that we counted down and out before, season after season after season, it seems like anymore. But
will he go back to camp and then rationalize that decision too?
I don't know.
Probably.
Right? I don't know.
That was all part of my plan.
Right. And then, but at the same time, I think they kept the smart players in there to be like, no, that wasn't. Kenzie's been there long enough. Tiffany's been there long enough to be like, that was not even close to your plan. And I think what he made this a messy situation even more so is that his first strategy of saying this whole quit thing with Kenzie, when he said, hey, I think I'm out. And he used that as a ploy to be like, I'm not really quitting. I just need her to know that. Well, he's doing it for the second time. So either way, regardless of why he did this, Kenzie's going to be like, this has happened before. This is textbook Q. And yes, Brennan, Gandy, Q just needed rice. There was one time where I was so hungry that I was marking on manila folders, like labeling everything. And I wrote down Manila on the folder. Like, you do stupid stuff when you're hungry. This is what happens when Q don't eat, man.
That's a good point.
Yeah, he was starving. He was going, he's going, and he really wanted that rice. And listen, I think, you have the chance to participate in a classic Survivor challenge, but I'm going to tell you what, I couldn't even get my butt up that pole to start with. I would be like, yeah, I'm stepping forward. Plus, only one person is going to win, and you definitely still have to look at it like fuel to move forward. I don't know. Of all of us here, I know I would step forward and take the rice. Would any of you have stepped forward to take the rice?
I thought Q's comment was really funny. He was like, you're going to go up against Tarzan? I mean, the dude hid up in a tree for 4 hours. Like, what the hell? I mean, that was a very good point. When you think about it that way, you're like, yeah, I should probably step down.
That had just happened too. Now would have I think I would have attempted it because I think I could have done pretty well in there, but I don't know. I'm completely blown away by some of those players who I think they know themselves well enough to know if they could win this challenge or not, that they should have stepped down. So I think if I would have known that I'm not good at this challenge, say a balancing challenge, not good at those, say a mentally, like a puzzly challenge, I would have backed out of that. Especially for rice. And it makes me question if these players know who they are, especially in an episode where there was like 2 or 3 times where they were claiming their own moves, which wasn't their moves. We saw Tevin do that. We saw Liz. We didn't see Liz do that. We saw Venus do that when it was actually kind of Liz who's been bringing this up. So I don't think these players are as self-aware as we've seen some pretty awesome players in the past. Who do you think should have stepped down? Which ones, regardless of when they left that challenge? Which ones, after meeting them, kind of seeing how they do in these challenges, which ones do you think should have stepped down the 4?
I mean, Ben's never done very well in challenges.
No.
Ben, Maria, Liz, and Q. I mean, Q probably could have done okay in it, but he obviously didn't. But like he was like, I don't even care. I'm just gonna step forward. So those I could have picked probably 6 of them that didn't stand. I mean, there was only 3 at the end: Charlie, Hunter, and Venus. And Venus, she actually, I thought maybe she had a chance because of her body weight. She's so slight, she's so small, better footholds, doesn't need all the strength. It's not as much of a strength thing as it is an endurance and
pain.
Body. It's when you don't have a lot of body weight and you're holding yourself up like that, you would think you could do things a lot longer. I mean, when I look at those things, I'm always looking at like rock climbers, right? What can they do? And you can see these, really fit, but very small, like smaller stature people that do incredible things on rock climbing because it's finger grip. So they're doing like, you don't see people with buff fingers. They're grabbing a hold of small things and then they're not having to hold all of that weight up. So that's how I always look at it.
Yeah.
But
do you think? Go ahead.
I was going to say, 9 days left. American Survivor is now so short. If I thought that if Q's going to hurt by not having rice, if I was in the game and I wasn't hurting for food, well, I want to weaken Q. You know what I mean? So I probably wouldn't, I think that maybe that had something to do with other people's decision, is like they didn't want to give more, rice to these bigger guys or help them any more than they already are, right? Hunter needs more food. Yeah, not really. I mean, Liz made a good point. She should have brought that up. She's like, guys, I can't eat coconut. I can't eat papaya. I can't do this. So I thought like, that's kind of brutal, against Liz, but she never even brought that up, and she should have when they were making that decision.
She should have brought that up, and Q should have brought up the fact that why do you save the whole line about Hunter hiding in a tree for hide and go seek after the challenge has been done? And I think that was a mistake on Liz and Q's part, is kind of selling that a little bit more. So I think they both could have done a little bit more selling and not let it impact their game. It was a low risk for them to do that. And maybe they weren't thinking, maybe they're so hungry that, as we saw at Tribal, all mental awareness and deep thought is kind of out the window right now. Yeah. What was this the dumbest Tribal council? Your guys' opinion?
It's a dumb decision by Q. I think it was the right decision to vote off Tevin. Yeah, I mean, right decision to vote off Tevin. Very, very likable guy. I picked him as, the person to win because he was playing a really low-key game, but then all of a sudden he completely checked out of the game. They're having these conversations on the beach, and then he's not even involved. He's up at camp whistling and cackling and, patting himself on the back for voting off Soda. I was just like, dude, what are you doing? I didn't really like him this episode. He seemed to just, he come to merge. It's now game time. You should be talking to everybody all the time, be in every single conversation. And he checked himself out and he got voted off. And it's that classic Survivor thing of the moment you think you're completely safe is the time you're going home. You've seen that so many times. I'm so safe. I'm in control of this game. And that dynamic between Tevin and Liz and Venus all trying to take credit for this vote that they all kind of had a part in. I mean, did Liz come up with the idea? Sure. Did Tevin make it happen? In some ways, I mean, there's more people involved in a vote than just one person, but did he drive that vote and make that vote happen? It seems like he did. But Liz, self-admittedly, she's like, I got a big ego, but she played the right game in that. Like, don't be like Tevin and go out there and put a giant target on yourself. He's like, oh, I'm being so coy. Everybody thinks it's Venus and not me. And then he goes around and is bragging about it. So he made a lot of big mistakes this episode, which is why he went home.
I have to agree. I do want to talk a little bit about Liz because it definitely felt a lot more like the Liz show. For the first time, we really got to see her play game, not the whatever kind of a attitude and it's just $1 million and it's like she seemed so flippant in the beginning and just, I just want to win, but I'm not really here for all this stuff. Or I wasn't invested in her very much, but I'm becoming invested because now I'm seeing her like, okay, this is my strategy and these are the things. And like you said, knowing to say, even though I know I did that move, I am not going to blast that out. You go ahead and take credit for it. I'll sit back and my goal is to get things done and not to get awards for the things I've done until the time is right for me to say those things. And that's at Final Tribal.
I don't know why anybody tries to be that boisterous about trying to receive credit for moves this early in the game. I mean, we still have 9 people left. 10 if you count both personalities of Q. And I don't, it's not time to take credit for moves at this point, especially the way they did. And that's why I like about Tevin's game. Tevin, even though he was kind of cackling and I think misread Liz on giving her any credit and thinking that she's just there for the ride, he misread that, but to be able to play into Venus's logo the way he did was a smart move by him. But going back to Liz, I mean, she's playing a good game right now.
Yep. Very low key.
Yeah, it's very Jaden-esque as far as like pretending you're not playing for like 6 weeks and then automatically like saying, okay, I need to make a move. It didn't help Jaden out, but I think that she's keeping hers a lot more secretive than Jaden ever did when he started to play the game.
Yeah, I think she'll have a hard time winning at the end because she was so like, oh, I have $1 million. This doesn't mean anything to me. You know, is this just a marketing campaign? She's a digital marketer. Is this just Survivor, just an extension of her marketing campaign? Maybe. But I don't know if she goes to the end and is going to win. Because if she approaches it like that, I mean, that's not a very, I don't know if anybody's won on I'm rich and I'm, you know, amazing. Not, right. You know, so.
Well, she's still saying that out in the world right now. I just saw a post from her this morning where she talks about, I took the entire summer off and I still made lots of money with my.
Well, I mean, that's different.
Marketing. Like,
yeah.
Like, but you know what I mean? Like, she's just like, I can still, I'm like the business queen. I can do all these different things. I think that she's, you know, she's definitely savvy when it comes to, like, I don't need a spotlight on me. I know how to lay low and do these things and get the job done. But yes, I think that I don't need $1 million will bite her in the ass if she makes it to the final 3.
Right. Because he gets to be like Q at the end, even though he's maybe made a lot of money. I don't know. He kind of brags about that too. I don't know if he's ever told people like, oh, I'm the #1 real estate agent and I'm, you know, big and bad.
But maybe he's not.
Kenzie's also a successful. Right. We were talking about that earlier, right? It's like he's in a house negotiation and he messes up on the application. He's like, I messed up on the application. The house is free. I messed up. So I'm giving away these. That's how he became the top real estate agent. He just gave away free houses.
Yeah. And if he said #1 real estate agent in the world, like his world, like he's on his planet right now I've never heard of.
On the island of Fiji, wherever he is right now.
Yeah. #1 real estate in his book. Yeah.
Yeah. Banu Island.
Banu Island. Oh my word.
Well, you know, who's really stuck out to me too, and we said this from the very beginning, is Maria and Charlie. Yes. They are strong. They're level-headed. They're in the corner there, you know, really strategizing. They're in with Q. They're in with a lot of people. They're low-key. No one, I think, has pointed to them and said, watch out for these two, Malcolm and Denise, right? So I've been really impressed by them. And then Hunter too surprised me. When Hunter, you know, he pins himself as a calculated person, as somebody who sits back, watches, doesn't really talk too much, doesn't like to make waves. Q told him one thing and he's like, you know, he does this Hunter run down the beach. I'm running down the beach. I have to tell it, you know, I just thought that was such a mistake on his part. And it's such a different approach to his game than he's been playing. I don't know. It's just kind of surprising.
I got a lot to say about all 3 of these guys. Yeah. I mean, really. Can I go back to Charlie to start with? Charlie now was not in my top. Like, I liked him, but very Ivy League. He just, you know, he wasn't my favorite, but I have to say Charlie is giving it this season and I'm here for it right now. Let me tell you, if you go play Survivor, and everybody who loves the game and wants to play should have written this down, get up with the dawn.
Yep.
That's when the conversations happen. First
thing I wrote down, first up, last down. Like that's how Tony won hero, the winners at war.
You snooze, you lose on that one. And that is 100% true. I love that he said that. And he was like, this is where the major conversations are happening when most of the tribe is still asleep. And the ones that are really here to play the game are down on the beach talking and making plans. I love that about him. I loved all of the way, like the way he took every piece of information that he got during this episode and looked at it very logically, looked at it smartly, didn't make a sudden split decision because of something. He like, okay, more information. Now let me see how that fits into everything. He's very, very smart. And I do like that about him. And that really shone through for me, not to anybody else that's out there, you know, they're not seeing that, but what he's showing the audience is I'm really, I know this game and I'm really smart about it. And I'm not gonna make split decisions and storm down the beach. Maria, I think I really am liking her more and more. And it's because she trusts Charlie, and they're really like that bond. You have to have that kind of thing. And we've seen these bonds that start and then break up, start like Soda and Tevin. Now they're both gone actually. But like all these little groups that like these two will meet up and then, but they don't last long. These two
You and
are
Tiffany.
really, yeah.
They're
Tev-
they're
yeah,
the only
Tiffany
two in the
too.
game right now that haven't spoken badly of each other, ill of each other to other people, try to get in other alliances with each other. I mean, they were in the group of 6 alliance, even though neither one of them really had a relationship with Tim. I mean, Tim thought that he had a relationship with Maria.
Yeah.
Didn't really have a relationship. Ben thought he had a relationship with Tim, but Tim didn't pick him to be in the 6. Like, they're the only two in this game right now that have any alliance that actually has some substance behind it, which is going to take them really far in this game.
Yeah. And then we get to Hunter.
People.
Yeah. Hunter. Extremely disappointed in him this week. I really felt I was let down by Hunter. First of all, kudos. You made it up a tree and you hid really well and no one could find you. Plus, you were hiding right above camp. So now you've burnt that hiding place to hear what's going on. Just saying. Because I would have not given that one out to anyone. If I could hide up in a tree like that above and hear all the conversations, Tony couldn't have made it up that tree, but Hunter could. So disappointed with that. That was just the thing I picked out of that. Though I knew he would probably win hide and seek because he's Hunter. But I think the thing with Hunter that let me down the most this game was he seemed so confused and unable to sort through the things that were being presented to him in a quick time. That's what you see in people like King George, right? King George was thrown into a tribal where things were changed immediately. The outcome was completely not what he expected. All of a sudden, his game plan had to change. And within a few seconds, he already had a plan in place and was making moves on it and executed that plan perfectly. And that's something that like situation awareness, and they're like really on the ball and can make quick decisions when need be. Not rash decisions, but smart decisions. And Hunter, who spent all of this time learning all of these things, right? Puzzles and games, and has a house full of it and does all these things and teaches all these kids. Where was the mental aspect of the game that he was teaching? Because I think it has to go hand in hand. And he didn't have any of that. He sat flabbergasted through the second half of this episode, right? We're going to do Tevin. Huh? Oh God. Like you said, got to go tell everybody. And then at Tribal, huh? His mouth was open like, huh? The whole, like, I was like, I wanted to shake him and go, Hunter, this is your game. You should be able to do this.
I want to go back and watch his interview where he talks about kind of what he's hoping his strategy was, because unless it's, hey, I want to be the first guy to win every single immunity challenge and lay low because I know how good I'm going to be at that, I don't know what he was planning to do after that. I mean, he was pretty happy that he got into the worst alliance in Survivor history, the famous 6 people alliance where you vote out each other in this alliance. I guess
we're gonna vote each other out.
So I really think that his game is solely based on him thinking he's going to win every single challenge.
Right. But he might. I mean, he really might.
Well, and like Brennan said, showboating and the immunity challenge was not a good idea. So impressive, so stupid.
Yeah, it did seem like Hunter was just thrown off and he was unwilling to change and be on the right side of the numbers and just be flexible with the plan. So it is very disappointing for Hunter, but he's never pinned himself as the strategic player or as the map. I guess he kind of did. The immunity idol find was pretty strategic. And he doesn't still have that, does he? He played that, or does he? No, he still does. He still has a hidden immunity idol. Yeah. So if he was nervous about Tevin voting out and he wanted to save Tevin, why didn't he play it? He didn't even mention it or think about it. I mean, you got to protect yourself. I agree, but Yeah, and why didn't he tell Tevin? Yeah, that's another great point. Why didn't he tell Tevin? Because Tevin had an extra vote, and Tevin could have mixed things up, and he could have talked to these people. And there was a lot of cracks, especially because Q really blew up his game. I don't think he can win because he told about Tiffany's idol, and so Tiffany's going to give him hell for that.
That's the
And
reason he'll go. Yeah, that's why he'll go. He betrayed Tiffany. I don't think anybody cares about his insanity. I mean, obviously they care about what he said at Tribal about I'm going to quit.
Well, he'll blow up anybody's game on for no reason. He'll blow up your game. He'll tell all your secrets whenever he's feeling like he's put into a corner or he's betrayed or he's, I don't know, done something that he doesn't like So that's, I think, the big thing and why they probably should have voted him off was you can't have a liability, but maybe they just know now don't tell Q anything. Sorry, go ahead, Brie.
I think go ahead, Brie. We're gonna say something.
I wasn't gonna say it. Go
ahead. My final four right now: Charlie, Maria, Tiffany, and Kenzie. Like that's what I think is going to happen. Because I think only Hunter. The only reason he makes the final four is if he wins everything. I think he didn't give Tevin the idol at that time because he knows he won't be able to win everything. There'll be a balance challenge out there. There'll be something out there that he won't be able to do. And I think he's keeping that for him. I mean, he's got to be keeping that for himself. That's the only game he has right now. So if those four are in the final four, I'm loving it. And I don't see anybody kind of going either four of those guys' direction with a logical case against them.
Yeah, I think that'd be nice if Kenzie and Tiffany got a little bit closer. They haven't really been at each other's throats, and they kind of have that same shared experience of like what the heck, Q and they have all that history together, and they're both pretty level-headed. They both think pretty clearly. Tiffany lets some things slide, like that kind of buff on the head example is a kind of a good thing. So she may not be totally aware. Kenzie seems very kind of quick, and so if they can team up with Charlie, I think you're totally right about that. That could be a very secure, level-headed alliance. And then, Liz gets picked off. Venus, they're just keeping because nobody likes her. She's really too. She's really a driver. Yeah, I mean, she really likes to drive too, and lead the conversation and be in control. But she doesn't have that. You need to check in with people. You need to, ask people questions. There's some people. And you ever met a person like this where you talk to them and they will never ask you a question? You ever talk to somebody like that? I've talked to people like this of a response question to you it doesn't even enter their mind. They're so just in their own head talking about their own stuff. And I know we're all like that, but there's literally people who will never ask you a question. And I don't know if Venus is like that, but I haven't seen her ask, outside of she's like, blah, blah, blah. What do you think about, so I don't know. She doesn't seem to get along with people very well because she's so persistent about her plan, right, and what she thinks should happen.
No, I think that's a great thing to make sure you tell people if you're going to be playing this game. First, the Charlie thing of first up, last down, that was awesome. And what you just said, basically, make sure you're asking people the questions. Boston Rob is huge on that, is not only ask people questions you already know the answer to, but ask people questions, period. Get to know who they are, what's their strategy. I think she tried to do that once with Tevin, where he was like, I think we need to talk now. Like, what do you see as the plan? Wasn't there some kind of...
She does ask questions, but it's kind of after she says her opinion. She's not really inquisitive and pulling things out of people because they're also standoffish with her because they know her. And so they're actually withholding information. So it makes it hard for her to ask questions. But when she talked to Tevin, she was like, here's what we should do. What do you think about that? How are you going to vote? And she has these very direct questions that make people uncomfortable. Maria said that. She's like, don't just come up to me and ask me who I'm voting for. That's a little bit too forward. You have to be like, how are you feeling about the game? Right? Who do you vote? You got to ask these kind of leading questions, right? That aren't exactly what you need to hear from people, but you have to read between the lines, right? Or ask the Boston Rob. Ask questions that you already know the answers to.
She doesn't want to ask questions. She doesn't care what. She wouldn't go to you, Alex, and say, Alex, who do you want to vote for? What is you? She doesn't. If she asks those questions, she doesn't care what your answer is. And that's what people can feel. She says, this is what I want to do. And then when she asks you a question after to say, what do you think about that? she doesn't care what your answer is. And then that comes across. She's just saying that because it's like, oh, I suppose I should see what you want to, you know what I mean? Like make you feel good by asking that question. So you feel like you're part of it, but we know that you're not. So I mean, that's just kind of what I got out of it. And Brandon, we lost Brandon for a minute, but he'll be back when he can.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, that vote for Soda too. I mean, that was, we didn't talk about this. You know, Tim gets voted off. Tim didn't see it coming in at all. I was actually kind of surprised on that because he's a pretty low key player. And then Soda gets voted off, and that like moment of Soda and Venus hugging, it was so cringe. Soda's like, "You got me," and then like Venus like, "We're sisters," you know. It's just like, oh my gosh, like what people can transform in their head into reality is kind of interesting. But that kind of messed her up. That's going to really affect her because she's on her high horse now. She's overconfident. When you get overconfident, you know. So I wonder if she does.
Time has come.
Yeah, I mean, she could stay around though because she's just out there and nobody really wants to work with her and nobody trusts her. And Q saying we don't bring goats to the end or people that we don't like, but I mean,
she's on the
habit of getting to the end.
Goats.
Yeah, everyone says I'm going to the end. I'm going to the end with the most powerful people. I'm a gladiator. I'm gonna go to the end with you know, the strongest people. I'm gonna go then with Boston Rob. It's like that's just a dumb decision. You shouldn't do that. You should go with goats. You should take people who aren't gonna win. Like that's the game.
Coach ask in some parts.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So I really wanted this, you know, the first 55 minutes of that episode, or what, 85 minutes of that episode. I was like, man, what a cool show for Q. I was so ready. And it brought me to this question for you guys. I loved seeing that hide and go seek challenge because like he could have built the rest of his game on that alone. Pointing out the flaws in people's games or pointing out how people would play. Like, oh my gosh, what a way to play this game. So my question to you guys is, what do you hope to see challenge? Like, I mean, hopefully somebody uses this, what Q just did, and brought in the game. What other games would you play in Survivor to kind of bring out ways to manipulate others? Because he also was didn't he go around finding people too? He put himself in a great position. So what games would you guys play on that island aside from the regular challenges?
That wouldn't have a song off with Taylor Swift and Metallica or whoever it was that Ben chose.
Yeah.
So we did get some T Swift stuff again this episode. So that's another gift that keeps on giving. Gosh, if we're talking like a children's game, I would play Kick the Can.
Okay. Well, is that just for fun, or do you think you could use that to?
I think I could use that because the idea is to, like, as people get found, you put them in like the jail or whatever, but then you can release them if you make that dash out and you kick the can without getting tagged, then you release your teammates, right? So I think it would be an interesting just to see the dynamics and who has the stealthiness and the way to do, you know what I mean? For me, that's the first game that came to.
Okay.
I got a good one. I'd play 20 questions. 20 questions.
Yeah.
Because you get to learn how, you know, smart people are, right? And how are they able to ask? We talked about the importance of asking questions, right? How good are they at really having a question that kind of, because there's rules in 20 questions, right? You can't ask like specifics, or there's things that you can't do. They have to be like yes or no questions. And so, you play that with people and you kind of get a good idea into their mind, how creative they are, you know, how pointed they are, or can they keep track of 20 questions and remember what they do and build on those questions, right? So each one is playing the next one and disqualifying other choices. So, yeah, I played 20 questions. Thank you.
Very good. Very great answers, guys. I had two in mind. One was
Red Rover.
I want to go play Red Rover right now. One is Two Truths and a Lie, where you basically have, you know, two people telling the truth and there's a liar in there, and that, you know, easy way to kind of figure out.
That's a very good one.
Then you kind of have to watch how you play. So do you play to win, or do you play to be like, kind of what Q says he does in challenges, and that is, don't try it all and just make it seem like he's not that big of a challenge threat type thing. And then the second one, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but we play it in our youth group all the time, and that is a game called Mafia, where you basically have some townspeople and it's kind of like traders. It's a big traders thing, but you go around and you have to try to pretend that you weren't the one that's killing the people, the mafia, or as a townsperson, you have to try to accuse the right people and find alliances and stuff like that. So I think a nice night game of Mafia there on Survivor, I think you'd be able to find a lot. But heads up to Q. What a cool move! And again, Brie, I hope they do this in the future and not fizzle out by the end of the same episode.
Well, it is sad because Q is a very good player. I mean, he could be one of, he could be a
70% of the time. He's a pretty good player. Yeah, I'm pretty thrilled with him, except for when he dropped the ball.
Don't remind him. No, don't remind him.
He didn't drop the ball. He deflated the ball and threw it in the ocean.
Because I still don't know where that came from. I don't understand how that's like before we run out of time today. I know we got a little bit of time left, but I wanted to talk a little bit about what do we think his goal for that was? Because if he was saying, I'm going to fall on the sword for something, which I don't even know what the thing is, that he's like
telling Hunter. I think he was mad that he told Hunter. He should have just gone along with the group, and he caused all this chaos at camp because he told Hunter, and then Hunter ran off and told all these people, and he felt like that wasn't. What was that? But not Tevin. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Which is weird because he was in the core 6, So I think that's what Q was saying. Oh, this was my mistake. I blew up the plan. Everybody knows I blew up. And I don't think people even knew he blew up the plan or cared that he blew up the plan because they had the numbers. And they would understand that Q would be against that, So yeah, go on.
And also what he wasn't thinking is, yes, he blew up the alliance because she happened to mention 2 people she would want to get rid of. Her thinking that, okay, yes, we're in the 6, but I'm also have Q as my number 2, right? And so the fact that he's calling out Tiffany, well, she's your number 2, and they know it because that's the one you brought to this group of 6. So the whole thing is Q just not having food. Like that's all this comes down to. I don't think there's any strategy involved in this. I think he's going to make up some strategy in this, but I don't, someone said Brent or Q loves chaos. I think he likes chaos he can control. I don't see how he controls this chaos. I think it was very unintentional, and he's going to try to make it seem like it is this wizardry strategic thing we've never seen before on the show. I don't see that. As a perfectionist, as he is a textbook perfectionist. I don't see why he would have done this, especially after playing such a great game the whole entire episode.
I was like, did I miss something? Is he trying to play the Raymond? Everybody vote for me, and then I get to, is he trying to play the Raymond? No, I'm just joking. But that makes, it just really made no sense at all. And they're like, it's completely out of left field. He never even mentioned it back at camp, gave no hint about it. And you say it at tribal, like first thing, like very, very odd.
I think he felt bad about throwing Tiffany under the bus with the idol. Like I think that was it.
I was surprised that they didn't want to go after Tiffany. I mean, it's Q's number 1 in the alliance, right? Now they're not close and so maybe that's why they said, oh, we don't need to get it because he's obviously not close to her. But that would have been advantageous for them to vote Tiffany off instead of
because she had an idol in her pocket.
That's another point too, right? And she had an idol in her pocket,
and she's tough.
It was ultimately Charlie and Maria's decision. So can we understand why they wanted to vote Tevin off?
It wasn't them
because they were in a power position.
I think it was so crazy that they're like, this is a Sandra, anybody but us type situation. So,
well, Q mentioned it. He said Charlie doesn't have that killer instinct. He said that. Q said Charlie doesn't have that killer instinct, and he wouldn't switch on Tiffany to do that type of move. Or I think it was maybe the other way around, but because I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it, but maybe Charlie did have the killer instinct and voted Tevin off. Because I think that's what Q was saying. And so, yeah, I guess Q did underestimate Charlie in that regard. I'm saying he won't vote Tevin off because he's in this Core 6 alliance. And yeah, and I like I said, I don't know if it makes sense to vote off Tevin because what other way does he have to go? He only had the Core 6.
And he barely had the 6 right there. But Tevin was probably, I mean, Hunter and Tevin were probably the strongest to him in that 6 besides I don't think we're gonna make sense of this today, guys.
I don't think we are either. I don't think it made any sense on any of these things. I think what we saw at Tribal with everyone scrambling around and talking and whatever, that it was just everybody just was as confused as we are about what Q was doing and why he was doing that and what he was hoping to achieve by doing that. I don't think it was to go home, to be honest with you. But I don't know how it would have helped anything unless he was thinking I can sway some people to pull the vote off of Tevin. I don't know.
Because Tevin was in the 6, right? Because he was Hunter's
one. Hunter's number 1, yeah.
Okay. So maybe they thought, since we can't get Hunter, let's go Tevin. Because I know that people were starting to think that Tevin's more strategic. I don't remember. I guess Liz we have to go watch this episode 10 more times. Did Liz tell people that Tevin was starting to say, hey, like that was my move?
Yeah.
Everybody, did she? Okay.
Well, no, I don't know if she said, maybe she did, but she was just adamant. And maybe that's she was just like, I don't care what anybody else says. I don't care how anybody else is voting. I'm voting Tevin.
Okay. So that was
if somebody's like that, at least one vote's going that way for sure. And so you're like, well, with this uncertainty, if I know one vote for sure is going that way, well, you get Charlie and Maria on board. You get Venus on board because she didn't like Tevin either. So that's 4. You know what I mean? So it might have just been everybody felt like we might. And then Tiffany too knew her name was out there, and then she's like, okay, well, I got to vote Tevin too. So yeah, not a lot.
But didn't play her idol, so she still has it, which was smart because I don't know if she copped any votes on that whole thing. Where does Q go from here?
Which Q?
Yeah. Well, like Brennan said, who is more emotional, Banu or Q?
Definitely Banu, but
but Q is irrational. He's more of the what's her face, the one that I can't stand. The little what is her name now? I'll think of it. Pretty long time ago. Abby Marie, or
Abby Marie.
Yeah.
Banu, that's who Banu is. Last night was who Q is, Hungry. Like that was hunger through and through. He turns into Banu, perhaps. So that's the answer to that question. I think. Where does Q go from here? I don't know. Do you keep a player like Q? Because Charlie was hitting that too, or Tevin was. Somebody was saying he's so volatile that we can't trust anything he does from here on out. So, and nobody has an alliance quite like Maria and Charlie. So I can kind of see Maria and Charlie kind of hanging on to him, but there's no real connection outside the group of 6. I don't know what Q's strategy. He'll tell us what his strategy is after he does it. That's the problem with Q. We won't know his strategy until tomorrow. What's your guys' thoughts?
I like Brennan's comment. Where does he go? He goes to the jury.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he's burned bridges with Tiffany, who is his closest alliance member, and Kenzie. Maybe they forgive him and they say, what are our other options? We have to work with Q. Just don't do that stuff again. But revealing that she has an idol, I mean, that's kind of unforgivable. He still has his relationship with Hunter. He'll come back to Hunter and say, I told you so. Why didn't you listen to me? You blew up my game. So he'll probably be pretty frustrated with Hunter. Who's to say what Hunter will do? Can he forgive Q? Will he forgive Q? He did tell him the truth, and tried to change his opinion. Liz, island of her own. She'll just do what she wants and vote where she wants. I think she'll probably continue that type of game. I don't know. What if we see Venus and Q team up? I don't think that we're going to go work out. 2 big personalities. I don't think they'll both drive each other off a cliff. likely.
Q will get
So, I
hungry,
don't-
and Venus will start looking like Friday night fish fry.
That's
So
funny.
I don't know.
It's a whole different show.
And then Ben, and then there's Ben, right? Ben's kind of the hanging out. Everybody likes him. Very low key.
That
he
is a
have an
good point.
alliance?
Ben. I forget
What is he
about
gonna-
Ben.
Right. Everybody loves him. They're always quoting him. This,
This
Jeff
does
can't help
not
but
rock.
quote him. This does not rock. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Ben and Liz, super low key. Kenzie's very low key too. I mean, she came in as a big target, but hasn't been a big target this entire. And actually, Ben is her number one. So it's Kenzie and Ben together. Remember, because Ben had the panic attack, and then
Mhm.
Kenzie's like, my mother and sister have panic attacks, and so they got really close through that, and they kind of share a similar vibe. So, I mean, that's it. And then he was on with Maria and Charlie. They were on the same team. So maybe they pull in, and you were saying if Tiffany and Kenzie can join Maria and Charlie, well, include Ben in there, that's a super majority. They control the game.
That's it right there. And I think that's the direction this game is going. I think Q is right. I think he's going to be jury sometime. He's too volatile to stay around as a player who everybody thinks can't win. I mean, the fact that, and Brennan kind of alluded to it too in his comments, is he didn't tell anybody about this plan. He told nobody. So like you tell one person, at least you have somebody that, can at least say, okay, he told me this. I guess I can trust that. Nobody trusts anything that the player that's saying he's loyal, oh my gosh.
Did everything disloyal that he could.
What a dumpster.
Yeah. Yeah. So who are we picking for? We think Q's out next. Do you think he's the one to go?
They kept Banu around for a while. You know what I mean? So they have this trend now. Now they want to vote off the big threats. Now they want to vote off all the big people. So I don't know. Maybe it turns on. I don't know.
Hunter
it's kind of a hard one, right? Hunter loses. He'll play the idol.
He has the idol, so he stays.
Yeah.
But they don't know he has it, so they would go for him probably.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, because he's the only one that voted Venus besides the narrator.
Tevin.
Yeah. I can't make a prediction. Like I feel, even though I was wrong with most of my predictions, I was confident about it. This one, I have no confidence in anybody I think is going to go home. I'm going to go ahead, and I think Q might even win immunity because he is a strong guy and he needs to do it. He needs to try now. Maybe he actually tries. I'm going to say that, gosh, who goes home? Because no one will want what Q wants anymore. So Tiff is safe. Tiff has an idol, so they're not going to try to get her. Maybe they tried. I don't know, guys. You make a pick first.
Yeah, it's hard. I think Venus might. I mean, they've been talking about it for a long time. Why don't we just send her home? It'd be an easy vote for everybody.
He's like, why don't we just send her home?
Right. Yeah.
That was good.
It was like, yeah, we probably should. So I don't know. Maybe they will get her off, but maybe it is Q. He's a powerful player. He's blowing up everybody's game. We'll get him next time type of thing. Not probably good at puzzles, so maybe he's not a threat there. But I think it's Charlie and Maria's game. Yeah, I just think they're in the most powerful position now. They've just played the most concealed game, low-key game, and they're both really likable.
So we're doing a good job by saying who won't go home, I think. So maybe let's dwindle it down right here.
Process of elimination.
Let's do this. So we got Charlie. Are we all three of us saying that Maria and Brennan, you can comment too, whoever is watching this. Brent, are we saying that Charlie and Maria are good?
It could be though, if they see Charlie, because Charlie has come up as a threat before. Mm-hmm. Maybe there is a groundswell of, hey, Charlie is in a powerful position. He's playing low key, but he's really smart. So it could go Charlie. I mean, it's possible. And they don't have any advantages either.
Mm-mm.
So I'm going to say,
go ahead.
I'm going to say guaranteed safety for right now. Because I need some kind of stability in my life. I'm going to say Maria and Charlie are safe. Bree, Alex is on the fence on this one. Bree, where you at?
As far as I just think that the showing off at the immunity challenge is going to be Hunter's undoing. I think if given the opportunity, if he does not win, they will go for Hunter. Now, we all know he has an idol, but they don't know that. So I think if Hunter is an option, they will go for Hunter because of the backbend. I just still think that is such a huge flex at the end of something that everyone had such a difficult time with. So that I think will seal the deal for him. If they get an opportunity, they will take him out. If Hunter is not an option, I do think they go for Q. I don't see him getting himself back in the good graces of Tiffany, because telling, like you said, Alex, someone that has an idol, if you share that information, you can't take that back. You can't wobble around it or whatever. You shared something that you don't share. And so when you do that, it's pretty much burnt that bridge. So those are the two people I think, if they're smart, they'll throw votes on a couple people. And I think you can get the rest of the tribe to vote Hunter Q, because Hunter doesn't have connections. Q doesn't have connections really right now. So, I mean, yeah, you burnt Tiff. She's your number one. Hunter has nobody he's aligned with. All he does is climb trees. So,
but in saying that, I think my best guess for who's going home, I think Hunter loses immunity somehow, or loses the challenge somehow. He has to play it, so they don't know. They're going to put their votes on Hunter, and now I think that
Venus,
Hunter, whoever Hunter's vote is, and it could be Venus. I think Venus is the highest probability on Hunter's list, because I don't think Hunter wants to really create the chaos that some people are willing to do at this time. So I think Venus is probably the safest bet.
Which I actually love that. Can I tell you why I love that really quick?
I think you told us how much you love Venus.
No. Do you know how good that? So here's the thing. Venus, super fan, very excited. She would love to go out with a blind side, like something super big. Like, I was a big target. They took me out. Imagine being the single vote that you just happen to be the one. That would be.
We were saying, will she, even after the fact, even after watching it, still credit herself with all of this gameplay and see herself as like, oh no, the edit was wrong, right? I really was in control despite all the facts.
Have you watched Real Housewives? Yes, that's exactly what she will say.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah.
She might live on. I mean, she might go on, the challenge and these other shows, and I mean, because she's got the
House of Villains.
For it.
House of Villains.
Yes. Yeah. House of not so much villains. She is Abby Marie Light right now. Like, that's where she's at. I like it. I think it's good TV. Right. But I think I think Hunter is going to be the one that makes the decision. I think it's going to be a mild vote for a systematically, and maybe we need that after this episode, is something a little bit more rigid, just to like get us back balanced. So
back to normal.
Yeah.
Well, a quick shout out to Kenzie, who asked Jeff if he was if he could do the poll and keep up with the rest of them. And his comeback was, I could definitely last longer than all of you that were sitting already on the bench after just the first 90 seconds. So I did like that. I love that Kenzie's out there asking Jeff the hard hitting questions and that he's game for all of that stuff. Did like to see the disappointment on his face when nobody took him up on his offer. And there was no knife in the rice. So there we go. It was
for that.
I know, I was too. I was waiting for him to, or slingshot it or something, like whatever. But good on Jeff. It was a fun episode. It was crazy. It was wild. We have no idea what next week is going to bring us. Q is the word of the day. If you have more questions and answers,
brought to you by the letter Q.
This has been brought to you by the letter Q. Go play some hide and seek with your family. It's a lot of fun. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for hanging out with us. Get your Q skirt now.